It's been a little bit. I am happy to come back to the world of Trench Crusade. Now, don't get it twisted. Lack of Trench Crusade content has not been through like a full lack of want. I do love Trench Crusade. I think the setting they made is very cool. I don't like making update videos or videos on things that are incomplete. I will prefer to make a video on a completed faction. And now we have two. Because today we're talking about the Red Brigade, a very cool faction that is essentially, it's official third party. The company that's behind this warband is Westphalia, a very good third-party miniature company. They're really sick, honestly. Much like the Great Hunger, another sub-faction that dropped relatively recently. That one is done by Creature Caster, where they've done like the minis. However, it is official in the way that Thomas Piran, one of the main creators of Trench Crusade, has done rules and lore, and it's all canon. It's just the minis aren't made in-house. And the Red Brigade are genuinely really sick. They're actually so fun. So let's just get right into it. Though first, if you're waging war, you know what you need? Cybersecurity. Segways, huh? Well, I am affiliated with NordVPN, so if for whatever reason you were wanting to get NordVPN or NordPass, which services I genuinely use, like I use it in my day-to-day life, use my link in the description. The Red Brigade is a sub-faction, it is a variant warband for the new Antioch faction, and as well, they are like the main boys for Duke Constantine, the guy that is in charge of it all. The origin of the Red Brigade is the founder, Saint Ernest. I assume the sainthood was later. Ernest was part of the Battle of Acre, a battle that sucked. It was really bad. It was so bad that everyone died except for him. Even worse, just piling onto the shit sandwich, his brother was part of his allied forces, and his brother died. So in that grief, he put on his brother's red-stained helmet, absolutely coated with blood. He put that on and he waged war. He killed every heretic he could and basically made it so he's the only guy that walked off that battlefield. Now, good question, how true is this? Because, you know, it's pretty fantastical. The final soldier of a battle killing everyone else. I kind of believe this is exaggerated, largely because that is actually an element for the Red Brigade. There are a lot of stories that new Antioch soldiers really like about the Red Brigade, so they spread it. And I come from like a military background. If you've been around military people, you know they like to exaggerate stories. It's fun, why wouldn't you embellish? So it's probably a little embellished. I don't imagine St. Ernest wasn't a badass. He definitely was. And after the battle, he went back to New Antioch, and his first goal, he wanted revenge. He wanted to get even. Hell yeah. So he started talking and recruiting. Largely recruiting on the basis of hell has taken all this from us. We need to strike back and just kill them. Sermons that are filled with pure grief, anger, and the desire for harsh retribution. There's a lot of people who have been hurt very badly by the war against hell. There are people signing up for the military strictly because loved ones, family, anybody has been harmed by the satanic followers and by hell and all sorts of things. So it's not a hard sell. Pretty quickly, St. Ernest got himself a roving band of traumatized soldiers, all of them carrying that weight of loss and bloodshed on them, actually explicitly wearing it. The armor of the Red Brigade is something that is passed down to each individual recruit. Someone dies, the armor is recovered, and they give it to the next person. This is intended to have like a direct chain from the beginning of the Red Brigade. Is that fully feasible? The writing of it implies it's less like, oh yeah, I could get St. Ernest's chest plate. Sweet, I don't know if he's dead. It actually wasn't stated if he died yet. And more like, they'll occasionally get new ones that'll refresh because sometimes you have such a bad squad wipe you can't go back and get your equipment. It's a very cool traditional thing they do. But this very initial form of the Red Brigade struck out into no man's land. And they absolutely went to town. They cleaved through like supply lines deep in no man's land and enemy territory. They hit really high value targets. They were super effective. What they weren't was legally recognized. They went out with very little regard for their own lives because all they wanted was to strike back and get revenge, which they did really well. So well that this was actually seen by the government of New Antioch, and they were like, that's sick. We gotta get them on board. You know who didn't like the Red Brigade though? The church, at all, because what they saw was a bunch of people who were like, I think they're trying to commit suicide in like combat. That's a sin. As such, they're not super liked by the church and is actually reflected in their rules. They can only have a very limited amount of like clergy units. There's the trench cleric and the sniper priest. They can have a limited number of those because the church doesn't support or want to join on these actions. They get a pass because they're just built different and they're really good at what they do. Even so far that Duke Constantine saw them and was like, well, shit, I guess they're mine now. Those are my soldiers. He specifically was sending out a lot of people, commissioning a lot of warbands to go out into no man's land for reconnaissance, tiny strike forces, retrieving artifacts. Essentially, this is the framework of in 1914 where the game is taking place. We're fighting in small warbands, all doing these little missions. Since, like, you know, this is like a skirmish game, it's not a big giant war game. And the Red Brigade was his main boys for like the super dangerous one. Any mission that came along that had a projection of like a total squad wipe, the Red Brigade were sent for it. On one hand, because they were built different. They were successful at a lot of these, and there's a lot of other units that New Antioch can't risk. Because if they just kept sending squad after squad into the giant like meat grinder that is hell, really quickly New Antioch would fall, and that can't happen. The walls have never fallen. A mix of being super competent and having zero regard for themselves, so they're totally down for suicide missions, because that's what they are. I don't blame the church for their perspective, by the way. The Red Brigade is just a really effective fighting force, which gives them a lot of special treatment. Their barracks are actually in like the main palace of New Antioch with Duke Constantine, and before he sends them out on a big old mission, he runs the Feast of the Dead Men, a special feast with all of his like top advisors, himself, and the entirety of the Red Brigade. Straight up, it's your final meal, because it's assumed that a lot of people are going to die, even though they are sick. Sometimes the worst does happen. The squad does get completely eliminated in these moments, because like I mentioned, they do want to recover their equipment so they can pass it down to the next person. Sometimes that just doesn't happen. So when they see the writing on the wall, and they see that everything is gonna go bad, they draw lots. The loser gets all the dog tags of the remaining soldiers and heads right back to New Antioch. The customary move is when they get to New Antioch, they reach the Duke and they say, the Red Brigade has fallen. Which throughout history, right now it is Duke Constantine, that Duke will respond and the Red Brigade shall rise anew. And then the cycle just repeats. They got a new set of boys that they can go throw at a problem. All of which just traumatized and depressed. They are a silent, mournful group, but there's a silver lining, just a little bit. They get dogs. On one hand, these dogs are really useful because they can get the scent of the things they're hunting. They can help them find hidden targets or help them find the high value targets they want to take out. On the other hand, they're also dogs, and they like dogs, and the dogs are friendly. This is the part I do like about the Red Brigade. I really am a big fan of how Trench Crusade does this, so huge props. I love how the lore is really playing a game between it and the rule text, because the rule text for the Red Brigade all fits. You read their big lore block and then you read this, you're like, yeah, okay, that tracks. Like, yeah, they got dogs, they can't have as many church units. One I really like is that they're not allowed to retreat, because a Red Brigade member would never retreat from a suicide mission unless like a rule forces them to. They also get like a special background action to help them recover that lost war gear. It's very handy. They also have fun units. Granted, you know, it's a lot of the normal New Antioch units of soldiers, but the actual unique units are fun. Like dogs, like I mentioned, you get dogs. They got free melee weapon because they're a dog and they got teeth. But you can also fit them out in 3 different avenues. You can have them be an attack dog from dealing damage. You can have them be a recon dog, basically stopping an infiltrate or stealth action. Or you can have medic dogs. They got a med kit and they can help you out. Also, they're like a second holster. People put grenades on these dogs. The only benefit is they don't send the dogs with the grenade pins pulled. That sucks. Ain't a real thing that happened in warfare. Instead, it's just an extra ammo pouch to give your dog, like, ah, bro. The real kicker though, the real big kicker is the Crimson Communicant, which is made with the communion for the second Metachrist. More and more, I am vindicated in my one actual, just true to the lore opinion that there are multiple Metacrists. There's a council of them, essentially. And the second one, this is a pure fanfic. I don't know if it's true. I'd like to believe it is. I think every single Metachrist has a specialty because they make a big old hulking behemoth, a hulking creature that is the manifestation of grief of the Metachrist. They are beings that are completely numb to physical sensations, so they actually seek out pain because then they get to feel something again. And they're also horrifically depressed because they're part of the Red Brigade. They also have the Atonement Bell, a bell that is said to make people run away. To be fair, I feel like if they had an offhand bell weapon, my first thought is, I'm gonna get hit with that, I should run. But every time they ring it, it does actually hit out that channeled sorrow of the second Metachrist and everyone runs away. This is literally in the rule text. It's like, you have an offhand weapon, doesn't deal damage, but it makes them run away. And with that's it. This honestly suits me fine. I've been super busy in my real life, so a nice short video is pretty nice. I'll get back to more vampire, mage. I got like a list of things that are already in the work for what my next videos are gonna be. So yeah, it'll be fun. But, you know, of course, I gotta shout out my channel members. But before I do this, this is important. They're actually like important. So members, if you're a member of my channel, please listen. I'll make a post about this. If you join my membership, YouTube changed how they do display names. It's really stupid. Put another tally for a dumb YouTube update. Essentially, there's the difference between your @ and your display name. So, whichever one you'd prefer, either be it the display ones, which are my channel members, thank you so much, really appreciate it, you guys are great, as well as my top tier channel members, that being Lucky Finds 23, Robbie Beckmeyer, and Czar's Shadow. Names I have memorized because I thank you guys a lot. It does mean a lot. If there is a name you would prefer I call you in these actual shoutouts, comment it, or in like the post, it'll be a members only post. I will make sure it gets put in. So just let me know. But yeah, that's gonna be it. So like, comment, subscribe, join my membership, get NordVPN. See ya.